Okay, so continuing our coverage over Johnathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, we actually pick up with Avengers number 38. Now, with this book right here in the opening pages, you have Johnathan Hickman reminding us about the origin of Pod. Now remember, we met Pod back in the early days of Johnathan Hickman's run on Avengers. And so this is Hickman reminding us about the origin of Pod, how Pod is a creation of Ex Nihilo, because you have to remember the first storyline we got when it came to Johnathan Hickman's run on Avengers was the Avengers fighting against Ex Nihilo, and Ex Nihilo was trying to revamp the Earth, make the Earth better. And so what he did was he sent 6 or 7 genetic bombs to the Earth. One of those bombs had crash landed in Japan, and of course that bomb was Pod. Now here comes the big thing though. Pod was just only half of the bomb. Now the second half will be told to us later on. But with Pod being the first half, of course, he was discovered by AIM, and then AIM used him as a way to fight against the Avengers. We saw all of that in the early days of Johnathan Hickman's run on Avengers. Now, with that being said though, remember, after he fought the Avengers, AIM had basically thrown Pod into a dead universe, a universe that is no longer around, and he was trapped there in the white void until a couple days ago he was actually freed from that prison by Sunspot, because remember, Sunspot bought Advanced Idea Mechanics. And so this is Johnathan Hickman kind of telling us and reminding us, hey, this is where Pod came from. Pod is a Ex Nihilo creation, and he was part of that genetic bomb that had crash landed into Japan. Now, we're going to learn about the second part of that bomb at the very end of this chapter. But then we pick up with Sunspot. Now, with Sunspot, this is basically Johnathan Hickman telling us everything we need to know about Sunspot. Like, for example, Sunspot in the last couple videos has been using his new company, Advanced Idea Mechanics, to figure out how the multiverse is dying. On top of that, he formed a Avengers team to go out into the multiverse to hopefully learn why the multiverse is dying. And so he has been making moves left and right. But this is Johnathan Hickman telling us Sunspot is making his own Avengers team. And so you're going to have 2 different Avengers team. You're going to have the Steve Rogers Avengers, and then you're going to have Sunspot Avengers as well. Now, you do have Sunspot bring up the Illuminati, because remember, the Illuminati, they are on the run right now, because when Steve Rogers remembered everything about the Illuminati and the incursions, he was angry when he found out that they have been going around blowing up other Earths from other universes. And so right now you have Steve Rogers' Avengers trying to chase down basically the Illuminati. Now, that's not the huge moment of this section. The huge moment of this section is when you have Sunspot tell the rest of the people in the room, the second half of his own Avengers team, that basically he has someone on the inside when it comes to the Illuminati. And that is huge, because remember, the Illuminati is a group full of people, the smartest people in Marvel Comics. And so for Sunspot to have someone on the inside to get information from, that is huge to say. Now, the next section is really short, but it's Johnathan Hickman giving us 2 pieces of information. And so we jump back in time and we see Sunspot meeting up with Cyclops from the X-Men. Now, there is 2 reasons why Cyclops is here for. The first reason is Cyclops telling Sunspot that he has a plan to protect the X-Men from the death of the multiverse, because apparently Cyclops got his hands on a Phoenix egg, and with him having the Phoenix egg, it could mean down the road Cyclops becoming the Phoenix. Now, the second reason Cyclops is here is because it's Cyclops being the middleman, because if Sunspot wants to meet up with his mysterious person who is feeding him information about the Illuminati, Sunspot has to go through Cyclops first. And so that is why Cyclops is really here. And we come to find out the person who has been feeding information to Sunspot is Hank McCoy, aka Beast. And the reason why, because Beast wants help from Sunspot. And so in return, it's Beast feeding information over to Sunspot. Now, getting back into the present day, we do see Sunspot continue to have the meeting with the rest of his newly formed Avengers team. Now, with that being said, though, you do have Sunspot tell his newly formed Avengers team about Hank McCoy being the person who is feeding him information about the Illuminati. But then that is the moment you have Sunspot say, listen, I have people who gave me information about Steve Rogers' S.H.I.E.L.D. and Steve Rogers' Avengers team. And you have Manifold ask Sunspot, okay, how in the world were you able to get that information to learn more about that opponent over there? And that is the moment you have Sunspot say, oh, because Black Widow and Spider-Woman have joined our team. And they basically quit Steve Rogers' team. But before they had quit, they were able to get some information and bring it over to us. So now we know a little bit about both parties, the Illuminati and S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Avengers. And so this is Sunspot making sure that he is in the right position to hopefully stop all this fighting, but to also save the multiverse as well. Now, you do have Johnathan Hickman continue to give us a little bit more of the origin of Pod. And this is very huge. And the reason why, because when we first saw Pod, and matter of fact, up to this point in Johnathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, we were left to believe that Pod was a living creature. But in reality, Pod is not a living creature. Pod is actually a battle armor suit, meaning that there is somebody inside of him right now wearing him as a battle armor suit. And that is the moment you have Hickman tell us when Pod first arrived, he found a young girl, and I cannot pronounce her name. But when he found that young girl, of course, with him being a battle armor suit, he attached himself to the young girl. And ever since that day, the young girl has really not been in control, only Pod himself. And so there is some kind of living being inside of him, but not completely though. Now, you do have Johnathan Hickman tell us what happened to that genetic bomb that had crash landed in Japan. Because remember, the only thing we know was one of the many genetic bombs had crashed in Japan, in a town called Kobe, Japan. But that was it. And so you have Sunspot say, don't worry, I sent somebody in there to investigate the area. And that person is no other than Shang-Chi. Now, when Shang-Chi gets there, we are informed that apparently he was not the first person to go investigate the area. Not saying that Sunspot sent other people before Shang-Chi, but other people from different organizations try to go out there to learn more about that genetic bomb. But they all disappeared because the vines that are surrounding the area, they are alive. And Shang-Chi realized the people that came here before him that had disappeared, their problem was they were trying to resist the change to their genetic code. And so you have Shang-Chi say, what if instead of resisting, I actually accept their offer, accept their genetic gift? And that is the moment we come to find out Shang-Chi now has the ability to clone himself, which is going to be very important in a later video. But then we pick up with New Avengers number 27. At the very beginning of this book, we actually pick up with the Multiverse Avengers team. Because remember, Sunspot formed a Multiverse Avengers team to send out into the multiverse to basically learn why the multiverse is dying. Now, when it comes to the Multiverse Avengers team, they actually arrive at the Temple of the Black Priests. Now, this is huge because remember, the Black Priests were one of the many different groups out there that were blowing up Earths, that were destroying Earths left and right. And the Black Priests are very, very powerful. We saw some good examples in earlier videos we did for Johnathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers. Now, with that being said though, our Multiverse Avengers team, they're learning how the Black Priests work, how their powers work, how they have to work together to basically do one spell, meaning that each person or each group of the Black Priests must say a certain letter or word that is part of the spell so that the spell can be used against the Multiverse Avengers team. But then you have Johnathan Hickman do something very interesting with Thor. Now remember, when it comes to Thor at this point in Marvel Comics, he was no longer worthy for his hammer. And so with that being said, Jane Foster became the new Thor. But Odin's son was still out there in Marvel Comics. But that is the moment we come to find out Odin's son has another hammer to make him Thor again, but a different kind of Thor. Now, I want you guys to jump back to a couple stories that we did a while back from Johnathan Hickman's run of Avengers and New Avengers. In one of those stories, you had an evil version of the Avengers arrive into the main Marvel universe. And of course, there was an evil Thor, but the evil Thor left his hammer behind. But to pick up his hammer, you have to be unworthy. And so with Thor no longer being worthy for his own hammer, meaning that he is unworthy, he was able to pick up the evil Thor's hammer that was left behind to make him Thor once again, just with 2 R's. And so right now you have Thor, Hyperion, and the rest of the Multiverse Avengers just wreaking havoc against the Black Priests. But here comes the big problem though. You have all the Black Priests just stop because their leader has arrived. And when their leader arrives, the Multiverse Avengers are basically stuck in time. They're frozen in time, not in ice, just that they can't move. And so the question is, how powerful is this leader of the Black Priests? Who is the leader of the Black Priests? And this is where the big twist comes in. And let me tell you guys, the big twist is huge because that is the moment we come to find out the leader of the Black Priests is Doctor Strange himself. And it's kind of like, how in the world, when did the world, did Doctor Strange join the Black Priests? This is very huge to see. Now, we do jump over to Latveria, and let's not forget that Latveria is the home to Doctor Doom. But this is Johnathan Hickman also reminding us that Doctor Doom is also holding on to the Molecule Man. Now remember, the Molecule Man is a very powerful being. He has the ability to warp reality. Now, on top of that, we have been learning more and more about the origin of the Molecule Man piece by piece in every single video we do. But the reason why we pick up with Doctor Doom and Molecule Man right now, because Doctor Doom has a very important question. Now remember, in the earlier videos of Johnathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, the Illuminati went to Latveria because an incursion almost happened there in Latveria, where the map makers were using a dead Earth as a way to travel the multiverse, and they were trying to take over the main Marvel universe. Now with that being said though, the dead Earth that the map makers were using, a piece of it fell in Latveria, and Doctor Doom has been holding on to that piece of that dead Earth for a good period of time. But the reason why he's bringing it up right now is because the energy that the dead Earth piece is giving off is very similar to the same energy that the Molecule Man gives off as well. And so this is Doctor Doom saying, hey, I feel like there's more to you that you're not telling us. So please tell me everything about you, Molecule Man, because you may be the only thing that could save the multiverse. Now, we actually do jump back over to the Temple of the Black Priests. Now, this moment right here is very important. And the reason why, because it is Doctor Strange telling us that the Black Priests are not really bad people. They're actually doing some good for the multiverse. Because you have Doctor Strange say that we are surgeons. We are going around removing Earths that are causing a lot of problems in the multiverse. Meaning that if we're able to get rid of one Earth to save 5 or 6 Earths from dying, then we'll do it. We'll get rid of that one Earth. We're just going around playing surgeons as a way to save the multiverse. We're not trying to get rid of the multiverse. We are trying our best to save the multiverse. And that right there is very huge, because now that's Doctor Strange and the Black Priest being moved off the bad guy list, meaning that there's other enemies out there that are really trying to get rid of the multiverse. The big question is though, who? Who is the mysterious group that is trying to get rid of the multiverse? Because it wasn't the Black Priests, they're actually good people. And so with that being said, the way we're going to end today's video is really the Multiverse Avengers agreeing to team up with the Black Priest to figure out how to save the multiverse, to stop the other threats out there in multiverse before the multiverse actually dies. And so with that, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I'll see you guys in the next comic book video. Later, guys.